On the night of August 20th, 1989, Eric and Lyle Menendez walked into the den of their Beverly Hills family home, shotguns in hand and plagued by the living reminder of the nightmare they had been living sitting on the couch in front of them. The brothers had suffered years of continued sexual and mental abuse at the hands of their parents. At 11 p.m. on that same night, a neighbor reported hearing firecrackers coming from the Menendez property. Mary Louise, Kitty, and Jose Menendez were pronounced dead at the scene at 1 a.m. after receiving a 911 call from a distraught son regarding the murder of his parents. Eric was 18 and Lyle 21 at the time of their parents' death, and 4 years later sentenced to life in prison without parole for double homicide. Kitty and Jose Menendez were both killed after their sons unloaded a total of 15 gunshots into their neck, arms, faces, and chests. Eric and Lyle had seen their parents' death as the only escape from the relentless sexual abuse they had suffered for the majority of their lives. The brothers feared that their father was planning to kill them because Lyle had threatened to finally speak out about the sexual assault, which would indefinitely ruin both Kitty and Jose. The two 22-gauge Mossberg rifles were the final end to the constant fear that the boys had lived for their entire lives. The sheer violence and perceived hatred of the murders initially was thought to be gang-related violence and shocked the public when it was disclosed that their own sons had desecrated the bodies in such a way. Kitty suffered a total of 10 gunshot wounds, 3 to the head, 4 to her knees, and an additional 3 to her back as she had tried to flee. Jose was shot once in the back of the head and another 4 times in order to finally destroy the man who had caused his sons so much pain and grief. The guns were nowhere to be found after the police investigation, and Eric and Lyle were both too distraught to be questioned at the scene. Jose Menendez was a strict, overprotective father who was also a child molester. He sexually abused both of his sons from ages 6 to 18. Their mother knew about the abuse and had continuously turned a blind eye, supporting her husband for years. The boys thought nothing of the massages and nude Polaroid photos that Jose had taken them for so many years because they trusted their father and knew nothing else. It wasn't until Eric confided in a cousin about the rubdowns that his dad gave him and asked if they were part of a normal father-son relationship until he realized that something was wrong. An abused brain acts and reacts differently to perceived outside stimuli. Those who suffer from disorders like PTSD are sometimes unable to experience things the way that healthy individuals would, without reacting in ways that would be considered irrational due to the past traumatic experiences. Sustained abuse takes a toll on an individual's brain, and the Menendez brothers were no exception. Lyle was believed to suffer from antisocial personality disorder, which is a psychological disorder characterized by a lack of conscience or guilt. He bullied Eric into his subordinate and projected his anger and hatred of his parents onto his younger brother. Their mother was not unaware of this affliction and confided in a therapist that she believed her sons were psychopaths. Both brothers suffered from depression and PTSD due to the sustained sexual abuse, which clearly had altered their mental state. In Lyle's testimony, he indicated that he had made most of the decisions regarding the shootings and that his younger brother had passively agreed to participate. This was a common theme throughout the boys' lives. Lyle was a domineering older sibling, and Eric unquestionably followed his brother out of fear because he was unable to trust either of his parents. The key piece of evidence that was presented in court were the audio recordings of the confidential therapy sessions between Dr. Jerome Oziel and both Eric and Lyle. Eric had confided in Oziel that the brothers had killed their parents. Oziel showed the tapes to his mistress, Judalone Smith, who took the tapes from Oziel and turned them over to police. When the pair were made aware of the fact that the submission of the tape was a breach of doctor-patient confidentiality and would be considered inadmissible evidence, Oziel testified that Lyle apparently threatened Oziel and anyone related to him after learning that Oziel knew about the murder. Lyle supposedly exploded into a fit of rage, screaming at Eric, "I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you told him. I don't even have a brother now. I could get rid of you for this. I hope you know what we're going to have to do. We've got to kill him and anyone associated with him." There's no actual evidence that Lyle ever actually threatened Oziel, only hearsay. Not only was this key piece of evidence condemning the brothers admitting to the killings, it specifically threatened Oziel and anyone related to him, creating the perfect loophole so that Oziel wouldn't lose his medical license for the grade A breach of doctor-patient confidentiality that occurred when he shared the confidential tapes with Smith. Oziel did indeed lose it years later, but the law regarding doctor-patient confidentiality still states, in cases where a psychotherapist has a reasonable cause to believe that the patient poses a threat to himself or others, the psychotherapist may disclose otherwise confidential communications that prevent threatened danger. The tapes in Oziel's testimony should have been considered inadmissible evidence due to the fact that it cannot be confirmed that Oziel was ever threatened, and that the fact that Smith was able to listen to the tapes that was not only illegal, but a breach of contract between Oziel and the Menendez brothers. The self-defense justification was derived for cases like these, where although the murder was premeditated, the victim of abuse took the first opportunity to finally escape their predator, which in turn can be justified as self-defense. The insanity defense also applies to cases like these where the mental state of the murderer is up for question. Although the brothers did murder their parents, they were trying to escape. The post-traumatic stress and Lyle's hypothesized antisocial personality disorder led to the belief that the only way they truly would be free would be the death of their own parents. They killed their parents out of fear for their own lives. Without these testimonies and the illegally obtained audio recordings, there is no actual evidence that either one of their brothers were involved in the killings whatsoever. The post-traumatic stress of the years of sexual abuse had undoubtedly taken a toll on the brothers' mental and physical health. They saw the killings of their parents as a last resort and the only way to be finally freed from the nightmare that was their lives.